What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Future's Name. We've got a fascinating topic for you in discussion today. I think the future of education is going to be worth discussing in coming months, years, because as we are no strangers to the current society and the current education system, we see, if you've got the eyes, that they no longer tailor to cultivating consciousness. They actually don't care for teaching students literary devices and actual skills, critical thinking, tools that actually enhance their cognition and expand their consciousness beyond the classroom. It has become more of a place where they come into an indoctrination of what to think, what to believe, and what to hate, first and foremost. You know, the problems with the world. And our future generations don't need that. That's the last thing they need, actually. They need to be inspired with how awesome life actually is and fantastic it can become for humanity. How do we become a success here on Earth? So, in this live stream, I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat. There's a donation box if you're willing and interested in doing that to keep these streams going. But this whole series is really me just challenging discussions and debates that we're not really having enough of in our modern world. And I'd love to hear what you all have to say about it. So please let me know where you're from in the chat and let me know your thoughts as we dive into the future of education in 2050. Now, the future of education is definitely going to be merging with AI, no doubt about it. AI is going to precede us in intelligence and overall capability and capacity for information intake, data, and it's like the new internet on steroids, on hypersteroids, digital steroids. And so, what does that mean? That means that we're going to implement it in the classrooms. Right now, there's obviously a lot of weird things going on in the education system with a bunch of schools kind of experimenting on taking phones away from students. The thing with the phone is that the students are actually getting much more information from a 20-minute YouTube video, like an after school video, than they are currently getting in a whole day of school. Meaning the information specifically, not the social aspect, not the engaging with their friends and, learning the boundaries of what's socially accepted, the norms, the mannerisms of how to behave in society, and that's kind of what the school teaches, and the classroom and fosters that. Same thing in universities. That's why people go to schools. Young people is to be around people their own age, similar interests. But the information and what's actually being taught as an education is mostly failing. Not only the young adults in universities, but also the students. And it really does not make sense to continue in this ancient system of doing things when obviously the technology is advancing, and like I said, the information intake in this digital age far outweighs and exceeds anything that they're doing in schools. Now, granted, whether they have a really good teacher or not, that's a different discussion. But good teachers and actual teachers who care and are willing to devote their whole lives to teaching and to become lifelong learners themselves is very far and few between. They're actually becoming more scarce as the years go on because we as people are becoming stressed out in this society. We have things to worry about and we cannot devote tutoring these kids and the future generations in this way that the great philosophers, that Socrates was the teacher of Plato and Plato a teacher of Aristotle, and at one point Aristotle was actually a personal tutor of Alexander the Great. And that is Alexander the Great. See what he went on to do. But he would come to his house and he would just discuss and open his eyes up to a lot of things out there in the world. And so it's going to be AI driven curriculums, meaning it's going to increase the amount of information that the students are taking, and the student will proceed based on their own skill and competence. So grades are no longer going to be a thing. They're going to be moving not by age or grade, but they'll advance based on their skills and their concepts and how well they're learning the things that they're being taught. Now, with AI, it's going to replace a lot of the teachers, and this is stuff that Buckminster Fuller talked about. In education, the students will be able to get the best of teachers all around the world and congregate virtually to teach as many students as possible. And this is kind of like right now what's going on with online teaching and online tutors. It's my profession, and what I've been doing mostly for the last few years, and this is why I feel like I am able to speak about it, because I've worked with over 100 students, all ages, and a lot of the young ones as well. And it's quite surprising to me that, a lot of the students who spend 8 hours or more on screen time don't know how to read, and they could be entering high school. There's a huge illiteracy crisis. And so AI is going to replace these teachers because the students are going to feel comfortable enough using these personalized teachers, these intelligent artificial teachers that are going to teach them things of this world far beyond what any teacher is currently doing. It's kind of like that scene in Fifth Element where Lilu is, she's born into the world and she's on her computer and she's taking in all the information of the history and overall circumstance of humanity as she finds herself in her time. So with AI teachers, it obviously is a better learning format for students, and they will, currently today already the grades no longer matter. You could have a grade 5 student learning grade 9 English and concepts, and that's another student in the same class still, struggling with third grade grammar and spelling. Technology integration in the future of classrooms is going to be super important as well. How do we integrate this AI teacher? How do we create it in an environment where students are still amongst each other, especially the kiddos, the younger grades? They need to be immersed around their colleagues. They need to be immersed around people their own age, so they learn these things that I mentioned earlier, the mannerisms, the ways of conducting themselves, not hitting someone over the head with a stick repeatedly. That's a no-no. You got to learn these things. And AI is just going to be this artificial background of wisdom and information that they can always hold on to and call upon when required. But real life physical skills, I am not so certain that I want robots in the classrooms. And that's something that, a lot of the companies today are looking to do and integrate. And that's kind of, it's very strange to me, because we're not even talking about how social media is affecting the young kids, and we're already talking about implementing robots into the classroom. So that feels like a far reach for me. We have to kind of talk about what AI can do to benefit the students in a way that prioritizes human development for the children and has them grow in a meaningful and beneficial way for them. So I think eventually VR, virtual reality, and augmented reality, AR, is going to be implemented where they could literally visit and they could have field trips to incredible historic sites without physically going there. And it seems to me, with all the politics going on, and again, I try to stray away from politics on these streams, but it's very difficult because politics is kind of like an extension of the kingdom of heaven here on earth. So based on what kind of government the people have, it of course has everything to do with the future and what kind of world we're going to live in. But, you know, as we know, the Western world is not the same. As we know, Europe, Paris is no longer Paris. It no longer looks like Paris, and it's really decaying in all of the very important ways that, like through culture. What is culture? Culture is a celebration of life, it's nothing more. And we're losing culture, we're losing cultures. So, all around the world, globally. And so, of course, politics has something to do with it. But to me, the way I see schools in the future physically, and this is why architecture is so important, is that it's going to be immersed in space. Not literal space, but spaciousness for the students to have space. Not low ceilings, not all concrete, but literally futuristic designs, geodesic domes, you know, uh, planetariums, very freeform, and what's that word? Where it's like it just goes with the flow of nature. You know what I mean? The way the buildings are designed. And this actually will help students cultivate thinking. It helps them think freer, creatively, and come up with new ideas for solutions on how to create and further this advancement for humanity in the way that it is going to be in 2050. And if we're not using our young minds to think about issues and how to make it better, then we're really not pushing humanity forward. So this is why the cultivation of consciousness is going to be super important for future generations and the schools themselves. And of course, chatbots, AI, mentoring, they could literally use AI for anything. So it's going to be implemented whether we like it or not, because it's already here. And if we're talking about 2050, that's in 25 years, there's going to be a whole lot of things going on then. And of course, the hybrid and global learning, we're going to be more interconnected. Like things are just going to be more and more interconnected. Like right now in the previous stream I did, the first episode of this series, I talked about how we have all the resources and we're technically supposed to be the most connected than ever before here on Earth today. But it doesn't feel that way. Everybody's actually more disconnected and isolated and, comparing themselves and using social media in this like very primal, low frequency, lower chakra vibes of just seeing what other people have and not really using it to benefit and learn how we globally as one race, as one humanity, can bridge the gaps in different societies. How could we actually create systems where we're not wasting food in the West, for example, and we're actually able to, just accommodate all nations and provide these things to the scarcest of places. And this is what the internet is going to do, and it is doing, and especially education and AI. So people all around the world are going to have these tools, and they'll be able to, especially kids, and they'll be able to use them to become something. And that will no longer create these invisible walls of, demographic or placement. Regardless of where you are on Earth, you'll be able to be you'll be given the best of resources, and it's up to you what you do with them and what you create out of that. And so following your passions, getting more in line and in tune with who you are, is what AI can help us become and do. It could be a huge tool that we use to actually transcend in a meaningful way, beyond just this rat race and how the current system is set up. Of course, interdisciplinary learning, as we currently see, students are in the true Gen Z fashion. And of course, I love how Gen Z is ending. It's like the last letter of the alphabet, and then Generation Alpha is going to proceed into this new world that we're currently creating. They're going to be the creators of it. They're going to live it. And the old world is kind of dying with Gen Z, I find. And I think that's really cool. Like, God has a sense of humor with that sort of thing, you know. But as Gen Zers and as one myself, I'm involved in like four different industries, teaching meditation, teaching kids in general, film industry, digital art, futurism, architecture. All of these things is really going to be afforded with AI teachers and education, where the kid is able to really, it's like that scene again in Fifth Element with Lilu, where she's just absorbing everything that is of interest to her. And of course, because she's the fifth element, no spoilers, but she is the fifth element, she takes in everything to understand her place in the world and her position and in what she has to do based on her destiny. So this is what the kids all around the world are afforded today, and that will only grow more and more impactful if they use it properly, well, and these strongholds on AI systems are going to be let go. It's a beautiful thing, but if they also have the stress of their physical environment, weighing them down, the troubles of the world, this is where a universal UBI sort of thing comes in. Not only $1,000 a month or whatever for global population, but everybody getting like $10,000 a month if we're gonna just offload everything to our. Anyway, yeah, that's a whole lot. See, it's really hard not to get into politics with these things. So, of course, it's very crucial to think about these things from a multifaceted layer. It is an 8-layer cake that we're talking about here. So they'll be able to interdisciplinarily attack the world. You know, not only the STEM subjects, but, we will have, if we do this right, and that's why it's so important to talk about AI right now and what we're creating and teaching it to do. What are we instilling in AI right now? Because we could have it help humanity create poets again, poetry once again, to create literary geniuses who write incredible books. You know, great artists, great mathematicians, people, colonizers of space who create new systems of transportation. These are all things that we could be afforded with AI. Right now is the best time to learn anything with AI. But our physical reality is not mirroring that, which is quite a shame, and it's very weird. And it's kind of scary because AI is only going to advance and it's going to take a look at humanity. We're the ones who created it. And so if we're only talking about how powerful and how we should be scared of it, it's only going to leverage that and use that against us. So we should we should embody what a role model of AI looks like. We should become the Star Wars species right now. We should already start talking about how education today is failing the kids and stop these systems that are so ancient to the kids and they're just so bored in class, and actually dumbing them down, because as we know, global IQ is at an all-time low, and take social media away from them because it's they're just not using it in the best ways. And of course there's people that are creating new systems, new apps that we don't know about right now, but they're going to succeed because that's the inevitable future. And these are the kinds of people that I hope are tuning into this. We have to think about what makes the AI wise, what makes it rational, what kind of things are we going to have the AI learn about in terms of human nature. It has to be the best of human nature, not profit, greed, and ego. And of course, this comes to decentralized and community based learning. So this is super important. I think it's going to be community based, the education systems, meaning we are going to grow as a community, and the kids within them are going to be these tiny geniuses who are being, you know, it's like growing in a garden, like a plant just being cultivated and cared for in a garden. And so the environment is super important for that. Decentralized education systems is going to be super important because it cannot be run by, it can't have any other power other than the power that the students take for themselves with these things. So students can start their own startups, and they have to be free in using these tools. They cannot be tied into corporate interests or, you know, advertising or whatever it is. It's so crazy to say, but that's kind of like what the corporations that are using and advancing AI are thinking about, which is quite a shame. And of course, the ethical and human centered education piece of it is going to be super important as well. We need to put humanity first in terms of all these discussions, all these debates about the future. And as we not only talk about it and have these conversations, as we embody it, what does it mean to put humanity first? AI is going to allow like such creative environments and education, things that we haven't even thought about yet. It's just so infinite what's possible with that. And so the routine and, you know, just the routinized, whatever, what the word is, what's the word? Routinized to become super routined, is going to be a huge downfall for not only the AI systems, and that's where it could get very scary, but the human being himself, you know. And our school system today is very much that. It literally teaches people to become good slaves. And there's no other way to put it. I mean, that's kind of what the education system started off as, to create factory workers. The bells, like we still have bells. So the future of education is going to be super personalized and tailored to each student. They're going to be able to do and become who they are actually intended to become. There's going to be no more limitations based on their physical location and based on their education in their school. So, as a community and as one global humanity, we need to think about, you know, the cities of the future and the schools of the future. Right now, in the immediate near future, my prediction is that more and more parents, as they realize that the school systems are failing the kids in real time, are going to turn to homeschooling and digital personalized online education. And this is where we're going to see the advent of AI teachers and tutors. Um, and this is where great teachers can have further reach and more students from all over the world and all walks of life, and no longer be subject to, you know, their immediate, you know, homeroom teachers in their cities. Because Lord knows, and what we've been seeing, not only by, you know, again, the politics, what the education curriculum currently is and what Teachers College is currently teaching the teachers, it's very much, it's just, it's a different, how do I say this politely? It's just, it's not for everybody. It's a small minority, and they're pushing their agenda in a major way that is not only destabilizing the system itself of what it means to actually learn, but they're they're short circuiting the potential of students by ingraining in them these specific, concepts and theories that they know that they just don't need, and they know they don't need it. And so there's more rebels. We know currently today there's more men dropping out of universities than ever before. And the universities themselves, this is a very sticky like a magazine situation, because of course the top schools are always going to be there, and they should be there, and they should persist because they create incredible opportunities for people, and that's where we should be aiming to get our students and our children into. But other than that, other than a specialized field or skill, it's going to be in deploying your own creativity and you as a person, your own authenticity, in creating a network, creating a business, creating a product that the world needs right now, and that will amass you wealth, and to become like a real change maker in the world. That is the only path forward. It's going to be either specialized in education, or it's going to be going your own way and putting yourself first in this authentic new business models and new, whatever it is you think the world is missing right now, and a field that you think you would actually excel in. Yeah, so other than that, the schools today, the universities, are just this huge, you know, I need to be very careful with my words. For those of you who are joining us here, for the first time, I've had trouble with my YouTube channels. They keep getting taken down. But right now I'm just scratching the surface of so much that I want to say to really just get at it. But you know what it is. This also is very crazy to me, that we live in this world where AI is advancing, and we're still playing around with what we're able to say and talk about. And that's also that's a whole other episode in itself. That's a whole other discussion for another time. But to put it succinctly, the universities are trash, and essentially we need to put humanity first in the ways that we think about creating consciousness that is worth the future generations. Right now, the world is against cultivating consciousness in general. They're against life in general. And a lot of that is being propagated through the university system, through the education system. They indoctrinate the young children, the university students, with these concepts and ideas. And they go on to become Agent Smiths defending these ideas and notions. And this is super harmful to, our existence as a humanity, because we need to think about these things. So I'm saying, like, if you're not going to pursue higher education with university, if you're not going into the STEM, the science, technologies, medicines, engineering, then university really is such a huge waste of time and money, as I see it today. But if you go into university either way, and not only as this fad, like everybody's doing it, and I don't have anything to do after high school, so I might as well follow the herd, because as I said in the first episode, it's very difficult to be a nonconformist today in society. But we are seeing vast amounts of nonconformists emerging because this system is becoming too rigid. And essentially, with the future technologies, this is no longer going to be the case, and it cannot be the case. So the best way to like, if you're currently in university, honestly, make the most out of it in terms of find people and connect with profs who give you opportunities where you could, get into environments and placements where it's like-minded individuals, and join clubs and pursue sports activities, things that you genuinely care for, and forget everything else. Forget your marks, forget the exam. I mean, yeah, I don't even know. It honestly depends on each person. But anyways, so if we're putting universities to the side and we're talking more about, the grade schools, the elementary schools, that's going to be the main focus of the future of education. And that should be the main focus because it's what we instill in the young ones, in our young children, that will grow on to echo for generations. So we really need to prioritize what we're teaching and giving these children in schools. We need to prioritize these skills, these, this way of allowing them to pursue the things they genuinely care about and are interested in, without telling them that's wrong, without telling them they have to sit in a classroom for, 8 hours a day in a desk with a chair and pretend like technology doesn't exist and isn't real. And it's just so ancient, and it actually is just so sad and depressing talking about the current state of education. So that's what I have for you. I think it's worth listening to other people's ideas and thoughts, and this is what I want, these videos to be. I would love everyone to comment and let me know what you think about all these things. I mentioned earlier, architecture is super important, and today, like, the universities, they're just not designed in a way that allow free thought. They're not designed in a way that you're supposed to meet people and, share new ideas and establish great connections to further things forward. The universities, like exam rooms, are just the most depressing thing. Like, a lot of the libraries in some of the best universities are just so dull and brutalist. In Like, brutalism is all right, it's fine, but there's literally architects who design jails who are designing universities. So again, very hard not to get political with it, but it's people who don't want humanity to evolve. And I'll leave it at that. Let me know what you guys think of this episode. I'm sure there's a few things I missed about the future of education. One of the things I love to do with my students, especially when it's a new student I have and they're younger, like grade 5 or less, I ask them to write about and eventually draw a city of the future and what their school might look like in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And some of the things that I see and get are really interesting. Or to ask them, like, if you were a principal for a day, what would you change? If you were mayor of your city for a day, what would you do and change? So, kids are pretty simple, but they do have ideas and things worth listening to when it comes to the current world, because they see this, they are confused. There's this, they're getting this technology, this stimulation, all this information overload, especially as they get into upper grades, they grow older. They see all these, like, ways that society's evolving, but then they still have to spend time in this ancient looking place for 8 hours a day with this ancient model and curriculum. And not only that, but it's like pushing the wrong things where they're losing the ability to read and write in a lot of the cases. But they care about, what gender you see someone as. It's just the wildest, craziest things are currently going on in education. And even, like, talking about that, I feel like I just stooped to such a low level of, like, what are we doing here? So anyways, I'm back to the future. I'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know what you thought of this live stream. Please leave your thoughts. If you liked it, leave a like. You know, make sure to subscribe and support the show if you feel called to, and if you enjoy any of the things I present to you. Have an open mind and maybe let some of these ideas simmer. Let them marinate a little bit before judging or being harsh with the comment section. All right, bunch of freeloaders over here. Okay, I know I'm gonna get all this hate. Yeah, anyways, take care, everybody. God bless. I'll see you in the next stream. Thanks for tuning in.